Supreme Court today upholding the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, for the third time, the third major challenge to this law that is currently giving a record 31 million people access to health care, including my brother and sister. So another 54 million Americans with pre-existing conditions also benefit from the law's protections. Today's 7-3 decision by the court sidestepped a major issue, whether Obamacare can stand without that provision that required most Americans to obtain insurance or pay a penalty. It ducked that question. Instead, this decision was based on the concept of standing. Do you have the right to sue? Have you truly been injured by the law? A majority of justices said that the Republican plaintiffs had not suffered the sort of direct injury that would allow them to sue. So joining us to help break this down, ABC's DevinDwyer. Devin, you've been watching this case from the beginning. Many Republicans thought that when President Trump appointed Justice Amy Coney Barrett to the court, that would mean for sure, she's so conservative, the end of Obamacare. She was, in fact, though, one of the justices that voted to uphold the law in today's decision. What more can you tell us about how the justices came down on this?
Yeah, it sure was, Terry. The confirmation hearings, which we covered extensively for Amy Coney Barrett, fixated on Obamacare. She has been very hostile to it. Of course, President Trump nominated that conservative justice to the bench with the express purpose of helping to root out Obamacare. And yet here we are today. She was one of 4 of the conservative justices, including Chief Justice John Roberts, Brett Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas, that sided with the liberals in an opinion written by Justice DevinDwyer, the most senior liberal on the bench, to once again turn away one of these challenges, existential challenges to Obamacare. As you mentioned at the top, this this decision really didn't even get to the merits of the argument on whether or not the individual mandate is constitutional, whether it should be severed, whether the rest of the law should stand. They actually stopped well short of that on this issue of standing. Do the people bringing the challenge to Obamacare even have a reason to be in court? And that 7-member majority, 7-justice majority said today, Terry, as you know, they said, no, you don't have standing. You weren't even injured. The individual mandate doesn't have a penalty right now. It's simply a command to have insurance. Therefore, it's a hard case to make that you should even be here claiming some sort of injury before this court. And therefore, they simply turned it away. And the individual mandate stands. The rest of the law stands. This was a very much a status quo decision for the healthcare system and for the ACA.
But as you point out, Devin, what a remarkable lineup of justices. 4 conservatives, including Justice Barrett, joining the liberals to uphold this. The third major case that Obamacare survived before the court, the perils of Pauline here. So what now? Do you think Republicans are going to keep fighting this in court?
Well, I think we'll still see some legal skirmishes around portions of the law, but the consensus today, from what I've been hearing from legal analysts and healthcare policy experts, Terry, is that this is it for the existential challenges to the law. That is, the Affordable Care Act is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. In fact, as one put it today, it's on as strong a footing as it's ever had in its over 10 years in existence. A record 31 million people in this country get coverage through the law, even without the mandate in place. They are still proving that this law can stand, can be effective, but provisions of it are still under fire from conservatives. We are hearing now, just in these hours after the decision, that a number of cases are still going to proceed in federal court. There's one coming up out of Texas, Terry, that's taking aim at some of the requirements for free, no-cost preventive care, vaccines, contraception coverage, all those sorts of things could face a new challenge. So that will go on, but the bulk of the law is here to stay.
A remarkable turn. So what's been the reaction coming in from Republicans and from President Biden?
You remember, Terry, I think you were there. President Biden, by Vice President Biden at President Obama's side, whispered to his boss at the time this was signed that this is a big effing deal. And today from the White House, they're declaring, using that same slogan to describe this opinion. This is a big effing deal. This takes huge pressure. There you see Ron Klain, White House Chief of Staff, calling it a BFD. That this takes a lot of pressure off this White House. They didn't want to have to be dealing with a decision that dismantled the entire law, part of the law. We're in the middle of a pandemic, after all, so huge relief for the White House today. Republicans, I think, are also tacitly conceding, Terry, that this fight is over as well. Though we have heard from Roy Blunt, Senator of Missouri, in the leadership. He said it's pretty hard to unravel this thing now. John Barrasso of Wyoming said it's going to stagger on in its failed state, although that's up for dispute. So Republicans at this point are going to talk a lot about fixing the law, but there's probably pretty little they can do to eliminate the entire thing.
Republicans and President Trump promised for years that their health care plan was coming out. It was going to be on the table in a matter of weeks or months or whatever. Never came. So now they may actually turn to fixing it in legislation the way they'd like. Another major case decided today. The justices decided their first major case on religious liberty and non-discrimination against LGBT families. The case involved a foster care in the city of Philadelphia, whether a Catholic social services agency can be denied a contract because of its refusal to work with same-sex couples in the foster care system, placing children with same-sex couples. The Catholics didn't want to do that. Where did the court land on this?
A fascinating decision, Terry, because this one you would think would pitch the religious liberty people against the LGBT rights advocates. You may think the decision would have broken along ideological lines. In fact, it was unanimous today. The unanimous Supreme Court sided with Catholic Social Services in a very narrow ruling, focusing really on the city of Philadelphia's policy and the basis for excluding Catholic Social Services from the foster system after really a couple hundred years working in that city. Philadelphia had argued that their exclusion of gay and lesbian couples from the process was discriminatory. The Catholic Church, of course, said it's a matter of faith. And the justices said, you know what? Actually, in the policy in the city of Philadelphia, they had written in there that the Commissioner for Health and Human Services in Philadelphia could grant exemptions to certain organizations. And they said, you know what? The justices said that the fact that that is in there, in their policy, suggests that it is not a generally applied rule. It's not a neutral rule if you're going to be giving out exemptions here and there. And therefore, it doesn't pass muster, and it was struck down. So unanimously here, the court, siding with the Catholics, just got off an interview with the deputy mayor of the city of Philadelphia. She says the city is now going to decide how to go forward. Do they revise their policy and attempt to continue blocking Catholic social services from this, or do they welcome them back? The city has had a long history and a good relationship with Catholic social services. They need those families. They need the church involved. Do they find some way to thread the needle? That remains to be seen. Meanwhile, gay rights advocates, Terry, are sort of breathing a sigh of relief here. They said this is the best, worst outcome they could have imagined in this case.
And in this case, the justice is unanimous, and the other one, that interesting lineup of liberals joining conservatives. What's going on up there? I know you'll be there to tell us as we go forward. DevinDwyer, thanks very much.
Thanks, Terry.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.